I'm gonna wreck it! Oh, no. Hello ladies and gentlemen, and movie lovers of all kind, and welcome back to another new release review. For today, we'll be covering Wreck-It Ralph 2. Ralph Breaks the Internet was directed by Phil Johnston and Rich Moore, and stars once again John C. Reilly, Sarah Silverman, and newcomer Gal Gadot. So the story follows Ralph and Vanellope once again as they embark on an adventure through the internet in order to try and gain a new steering wheel for Vanellope's broken game. Otherwise, she will be trashed at the arcade and then it's game over. I was super hyped heading into this one. I had watched all the trailers, and every single time I was watching them I was having a blast. I was loving it. I was getting so excited. So, what did I think? Well, before we get a score, of course, we have to go through the review. So to kick off the positives, it is going to be Ralph's and Vanellope's relationship, because these two are just the dynamic duo of modern animation. I love these two together. John C. Reilly and Sarah Silverman, they just have this perfect blend of comedy. They rely on each other so heavily, and they complement each other beautifully. Their humor is great, their friendship is amazing. They just have this really touching story. Next is just exploring how the internet works in this movie. For the first one, we got to explore how the arcade works. Now we're going even bigger and better with the internet. I mean, the internet is huge, it's vast. Almost everyone in the world uses the internet on a daily basis. It is huge, it is limitless. What goes on behind the screen, that's what this movie explores, and it's so cool to see how our favorite websites supposedly work, and our favorite apps, and all these different things. And they even explore some things like the dark web and pop-up ads, and they explore almost every aspect of the internet, and it is so cool to see. And next is the cameos in this movie, because we knew they were coming. We saw them, we saw the Stormtroopers, we saw Iron Man, we saw the TIE Fighters, and the princesses. You're getting all that stuff, and to be honest, it's really awesome. Although it's only a small portion of the movie, it was so cool just to go, oh, there's this, that. Even going through the internet as a whole, seeing like, oh, there's that app, there's this app, there's that website, oh, that's so funny, oh, I hate when that happens. Like, just picking up on all these little things, and especially the cameos. And next is that this movie is just a blast a lot of the time. There's a lot of fun to be had. They're exploring all these websites, seeing how all that stuff works, going on these crazy misadventures. All that stuff is a super fun time to watch. Your kids are definitely gonna love it, because I'm 20 years old and I had a blast. I'm sure people far past my age are gonna love it as well. There's a lot of fun to be had in this movie. And the last positive is going to go just the great messages that this movie has. That I feel like is really the heart of this movie, aside from the dynamic duo, is the messages that this movie has. It has messages like, you know, be true to yourself, do what you love. It has great messages about friendship and letting each other be and do your own things. You know, you don't have to be one person. You can do your own things in life, and there's a lot of really great messages in here. But sadly, as much as I wanted to just purely love this movie, there are negatives. And my first negative is something that I didn't kind of pick up on until the end of the movie, and that was the fact that I felt this movie was lacking something the whole way through. And I feel like a big thing that it was lacking was likable supporting characters. I mean, you have Gal Gadot in there, and she does a fine job. She plays this character Shank, and she's a badass like Gal Gadot is, but she didn't do it for me. She was just a really plain character. They were desperately missing great supporting characters like Fix-It Felix or Calhoun. Just those characters, even just those two, to have them along with the adventure, I feel like would have heightened it that much more. Just the total lack of supporting characters really kind of sucked. I wish there was a little bit more personality in this movie. And the next one is actually another big one for me, and that's just the fact that this movie for me really felt like it lacked focus. I don't know if it was just me, maybe I'm losing my mind, but it just felt like this movie didn't have a main story. Like, you felt like it did, but when you kind of look at it as a whole, there really wasn't like one main narrative. It just felt like, rather than one fluent, straightforward story, it was just a bunch of side missions. And really, the side missions weren't contributing to the story, they were contributing to the messages, like the messages that I was talking about. It feels like this whole movie was just leading up to the messages and not really a coherent story. Like, there was no coherent plot. It was just kind of a bunch of side missions. It was like one task led to another, to this, to that, to this, that just led to this nice little heartfelt message at the end. And lastly, for the negatives, is that there was like no villain in this movie. Again, like, it just feels like these are huge key points that should have been in this movie. It had a villain that we can kind of go for, kind of understand why they're there, and even just have a little bit of fun with. It could have made this movie so much better than it is. Although, guys, I do not feel like Ralph Breaks the Internet is as strong as Wreck-It Ralph. I still had a fun time, and I'm sure you will too. It just wasn't as good of a movie. But with that being said, guys, I'm going to be giving Ralph Breaks the Internet, or Wreck-It Ralph 2, a 7.5 out of 10. If you like this video, be sure to like, subscribe, and comment. Let me know, have you seen Ralph Breaks the Internet? Do you think it's better than the first one, or are you kind of in my side here where it's a good follow-up, but not quite as strong? And be sure to check me out on social media. I'm on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Follow Ralph, two of them in the description or at the end of the video. And be sure to check out my Instagram page every Friday for the Fan Vote Friday. And as always, thank you so much for watching, and that's a wrap. And for today, we will be covering Fantastic Beasts: The Crimes of Grindelwald.